Right. Good evening, everybody. This is Guru Tom Pena for FMA discussion 411. And tonight we are actually blessed to have Miss Rebecca Kane, or the dancing fighter of Ireland. Okay. I know for those who are all our Irish followers there and my Irish friends, you're gonna love this podcast with Rebecca Kane. So without further ado, I want to bring her in now.
Hi.
Hi Rebecca, how are you doing?
Evening, Guru Tom. I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm actually really looking forward to this interview with you because I mean um, besides a female FMA fighter, you are also into dancing.
Yep.
You also are into Muay Thai, and you're already starting to get your hands into boxing. But apart from all those things, you basically claim a lot of the first when it comes to when it comes to the competition circuit here in Europe. So which we are going to basically share with you tonight, guys. Okay, and of course, before I go through with this interview, I would like basically to thank Brian Rodriguez because he was the one who actually who started to talk to you about being interviewed in FMA discussion. Okay, it's just that we're practically more compatible as far as time wise. But I mean, I'm lucky. I'm lucky to have met you through FMA discussion, and I'm basically lucky and I'm honored to to be the host in this interview with you. Okay,
Thank you.
so everybody, you know the drill. Good evening, everyone. If you're watching this podcast with Rebecca, please say hi and tell us where you're watching from. And if ever you've got any question for Rebecca, please put it in the comment section so that we can address it. All right? Cool. Okay, so Rebecca, for the sake of everybody who's watching right now, and for those who didn't manage to join us in the um, Aiden is there. She's a legend. Yes, actually, Aiden, I'm talking to a legend. So,
Aiden's a bigger legend. He's just
well,
like a stealth mode
yeah,
ninja, isn't he?
it
Going
is.
around the world and fighting. So
It is. It is. And I'm lucky basically to also, I was the one who interviewed Aiden as well. I think it was last year. So to be able to interview you both, it's an honor for me. It's a blessing for me.
thank you.
All right. So before we start to unravel to everybody all the things that you have done within the FMA world, please tell us briefly, how did you start to get into martial arts? What age? Who inspired you?
So basically, I started off with piano lessons as a little child. My family being obviously Irish. And my granddad was an accordion player, and it was a big thing to get into musical instruments. My mother actually wanted me to get into ballet. I didn't want to be seen in a tutu. And I saw the Irish dance, got into that first, and then I got really into it. But my mum saw that I possibly needed to toughen up. So I was sent along to a local karate school because that's all there was in Huddersfield back then. But I was obviously blessed to have Bob Sykes, the editor of Martial Arts Illustrated magazine, as one of the instructors. So it was Wadaroo and freestyle karate and Shorai karate, which was Master Joe Tierney's association that we used to grade through as well. So I was kind of blessed to have some of the country's top people in my hometown. So yeah, I was sent to toughen up, and then it got to a point I wasn't really into the point stop fighting that you see in the karate and the freestyle, and I wanted to go in the ring. So I asked Bob, "Can I go in the ring?" And he said no, and I was like, "Right, okay." Fine. And I turned around, and there was a new class that had started at his full-time academy when he turned it full-time, and it was a screamer. And I was like, wow, that looks cool. They've got head guards on and they're really hitting each other hard, and this looks real. So I went up to the instructor and asked, can I join in? And he said, please go to your other instructor and ask him first for permission. So there was a lot of politeness, you know. That's one thing I will say about the martial arts. There does seem to be a lot more respect than some of the other combat sports. But I won't go into that. So yeah, I got told go and ask for permission, and I got into it. I was 14, and within a year, I was on Team GB going to the Philippines to fight in Cebu at the oh my god 2000 World Championship. So yeah, it's literally 2 generations ago. It feels like a lifetime ago. So yeah, I was kind of thrown in the deep end a little bit, because obviously I was the first girl, the first under 16 girl to take it up. And I think, you know, I'm lucky that people were really quite, in a way, supportive. So I'd say they were quite supportive because they allowed me to compete against the other boys. Whereas, you know, when you hear about other combat sports, the girls were probably not allowed to compete against the boys. So I was allowed to compete against the cadet boys who, I mean, if anyone who does know me knows I'm about 5'1". And so the cadet 15-year-old boys are like 6 foot. So, you know, when they're raining the sticks down on you, you've got to learn to bob and weave and move and get out of the way. So, yeah, I was blessed. And then because I won in the cadets division in single and double stick, the instructors at the time thought, let's see if she can give it a go in the adults division at the British Championships in 2000. Okay. And so, I was put into the adults at 15 years old for the single and double stick. And so from that, I ended up with a record of 5 British titles. That 23 years later still hasn't been defeated. So it's still a record that's standing. I think it beat Pat O'Malley's record of 4 British titles in one day. So at that event, I completely kind of excelled. I didn't do as well at others after. You know, I think it was a hard one to kind of match. To get to do the 5 divisions with the Anyo, and then, you know, it was a hard one to match. So I think the most I ever did after that was 3.
So I mean, before I show them actually a picture of that newspaper clip, okay?
Yeah.
You mentioned earlier that you didn't fancy getting into point competition.
Yeah, I mean, I did a few point stop competitions, and I was good at the kata. I came 4th at the MAI Championships back in the days when Chloe Bruce was winning it. So I think she went on to do Britain's Got Talent and stuff. But it just didn't kind of, you know, it's like point stop, but you're kind of holding back.
Yeah, so you're holding back.
You kind of not, you're hitting but not hitting.
Yes.
So I don't know if it really. It's like learning to swim and being thrown in the deep end. I kind of needed to be thrown in the deep end to actually go, okay, I can't put my feet down and I feel in danger, so therefore I'm going to move. I think that's really what it was, more of a motivation of feeling like you're in danger.
All right. Okay. So I'm going to show this first picture, which is, I don't know if they'll be able to see it. Okay. So this is a newspaper. I think it's a picture from a newspaper. So it says here, karate trio selected for GB squad, for Great Britain squad, and there are 3 of you actually. So can you give us a little bit of a background on this one?
Yeah, so basically, I think at that time people were looking and saying, "What's stick fighting? What's a screamer? What is that? Oh, right, karate. Yeah, okay." You know, it was those days where if you did anything that sounded exotic, people would be questioning, "Well, what is it?" So yeah, I think it was easier because they could get their head around the fact that the lessons were at a well-known karate club, that they just threw it as karate trio. So yeah, in that picture there's Scott Chadwick, who's actually come back to training 2 weeks ago, and he's been a brown belt for 23 years. So I'm going to get him through his black belt this year. So he was one of my top training partners. He also went on to compete at the European Championships as well in
Okay.
2001, and I think he got a bronze or a silver. So yeah, he did really well. And then there's Nigel Brown, who was the instructor at the time. So Nigel trained first with a guy called John Chow, who
Hmm.
was Illustrissimo, who moved to Australia. So at one point he was based in Huddersfield and then moved out to Australia. And then he took up the training with Pat O'Malley and John Harvey. Because I think that was, again, in the UK, a massive go-to was either the Bob Breen JKD camp,
Yes, it
to
is. Yeah.
which Pat came from and John came from, or when Rapid Harness set up, it was like the most popular. Again, until then, Dossie Parry's started coming in, and some of the other more, like I think Krishna as well was kind of in the early
Yeah.
days.
Good. Good. Good enough.
So
Yeah.
yeah, there wasn't
Ah.
many back then.
So this is basically this picture is you're still 14 at this time.
Well, I just turned 15 in the
Or just turned
February,
15.
and the tournament was in the
Okay.
April.
All right. Okay. And was this like the first time that you were featured in a news article like this?
In the new, yeah. So in a news article for stick fighting, yes, I think I did do an event that was point stop at the Clash of the Titans. So
All
I
right.
was on a Team England for Clash of the Titans for point stop. I won the fight. Um, the year before 1999. So there is a news article for that as well. So
Okay.
I didn't really, yeah. The stick fighting was more me.
Ah,
So
okay. Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
All right. Um, now, okay. I think this is a picture of maybe Julie.
Julie Ong, am I wearing a blue top?
Yes, you were wearing a blue top.
Yeah, so that's so Julie Onge was the Philippine national champion, and to me, I still look back. She's got a daughter, and I'm a daughter's fairy godmother now. So it's like you go to these tournaments, you make friends, and they're long lasting friends,
Yeah.
even though you're in the ring. And the thing is, there was so much respect as well before the fight and after the fight, and that was something that I will treasure, because it's not something that you get all the time in combat sports. And Julie came up to me, she made me a CD of all the anyos, she loved the anyo that I'd done, and she made me a CD of all the tournaments anyos, so that I could have a look and help improve my harness. So that when people truly love the art that they do, they're very welcoming to what we
Mm,
were called the
that's good.
foreigners, which
That's
was
good.
weird back then. But yeah, she was the Philippine national champion, and I beat her in the tournament. But to me, it was a very technical fight. So
Mhm.
it was more finding the angles, and
Which
um,
which is
yeah,
really nice.
it
Nice.
felt great. It felt like one of my best technical fights.
Hmm.
I mean, some of them have been a little bit more rapid and
Yeah, and
faster
just
and
bashing and
things like that,
something.
like the weak-ass style. But
Hmm.
that was like a textbook, like Philippine
Wow.
Council or Arnis style fight. So I was pleased with that one.
And this is basically the ones that you showed me.
Yeah, so I sent you a
You
few of
fight
the
on
links
YouTube.
that were on the YouTube channel. Yeah.
Yeah. So guys, if you want to see that fight, I'll post the links to that YouTube channel later on after the interview. So at least you'll be able to see the young Rebecca fighting in one of her fights. Okay, before we carry on, I would like to say hello to some of our viewers now. So we got Brett Reese, hello from Kentucky. This warrior has a beautiful mind, and it's an honor to listen. Um, you've got Terry Hoven from Stockton, Howdy from Stockton, James Irwin watching from Connecticut. Who else? Um, Jess Polillo, Mabuhay from the Philippines. Patrick Maldonado, hello there, everyone. Saying hello from Santa Maria, California. Aidan, of course, is there watching, and already
Yeah.
said earlier on, she's a legend. Eric O'Brien, what's up from Naples, Florida? Kurt, the rubber chicken. Salute from Homer, Alaska. Phil Carew. Great hello from Chelmsford, Essex, UK. Neil Palmer is on the house, saying hello to you both. Um, well, Phil said, "Fancy seeing you here, bro." And of course, Neil Palmer replied, "They are both in my book, Phil." So yeah, we'll talk about the book later. I don't know if you've already bought one, but just to let everybody know, just a little plugging. Okay, so Neil Palmer wrote a book, the Warrior Path, and it featured basically not just FMAers but uh, martial artists from various disciplines. They are sharing their journey in martial arts and basically inspiring people with their journey. And both Rebecca and me were actually featured in that book. You can get it from Amazon. So just a little plugging. Okay. Brett said Naples has the best beaches. Brett, my son and I just bought Ribena, and some biscuits, as well as some other things from Britain yesterday because we want to eat. Th- th- thanks, thanks, Brett. You're making us hungry now. Okay, so let's go back a little bit. So you basically you had your first taste, okay, of competition in the Philippines in stick
Yeah.
fighting. And of course, there's a build up to that until you competed with some of the champions, local
Yeah,
champions there.
I think my first WECAF tournament, I think I fought against one of Junicio Kenyetti's nieces in the finals as well. So it's always been some top Filipino, like my weight class. It was the Filipino weight class. Really, you don't get many larger Filipino ladies for like the middleweight and the heavyweight women. So I was blessed to have a lot of Filipino fight opportunities. But more so when it went to the padded stick tournament, so like the Philippine Council tournaments. I think the
Yeah.
last tournament in 2006, I had about 9 or 10 fights. So I did 2 weight divisions there. So it just gave lots and lots of experience that you wouldn't get in Britain.
Yeah. So when in preparation for your first Philippine tournament, how many fights did you have here in Britain?
So before I went so I did a novice championships in 1999. And again, I won the single stick and the double stick. And then the forms. The forms was against adults, but it was again a boy for the kids division.
Yeah.
So that was November 1999. No, September 1999. And
All
then
right.
in the November 1999, there was the British Open Championships, and I fought, and I actually lost my fight against
All right.
an Irish boy.
Oh, okay.
And I think I kind of needed that. And I think that's probably what spurred me on then to do the British Championships in the April and have a clean sweep, because
All right.
it was that motivation, I think, because I did so well at the novice. So really I had 2 fights there. And then another fight at the British Open. But I did come bronze in the Agno at the British Open in November 1999, and it was again adults. And I actually tied for second with Thomas Roussel of France.
All right.
And we had to both do our forms again. And of course, I'd kind of made it up. I do a lot of ad lib, and I made it up as I went along as a traditional Agno. So when I did it again, I think a couple of the judges noticed that I didn't go in 4 directions or something. So I placed bronze, but it was again just great experience. So yeah, I had like 3 fights. Then the British Championships in all those different weight classes. Again, because I was fighting in the adults, there wasn't as many adults to fight, but the adult that I got to fight was already a world champion. So that was fun. And again, I was weighing about 7 stone, and she was an adult lightweight champion. So that's at least 9 stone, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was a good couple of stone weight difference, and you can see it, when we were lined up, even with the armor on, like she's like that, and I'm like this, you know. So again, that was probably two to the final for the single stick, one to the final for the double stick cadets, or was it two? No, one, and then two. So that's another four. So about 9 fights before I fought in the Philippines the first
Okay.
time. So yeah,
Now,
when you're then getting over there and you're seeing that the Filipino kids are fighting probably every other weekend, the same as Thai boxing,
yeah,
it is a bit of a gap.
a big gap. So, I mean, my question is this. So when you fought, you didn't actually fight uh, girls on,
No,
you
it
were
was
fighting boys and you were
yeah.
basically fighting adults. How did it feel?
Yeah, I know. Looking back, would I allow my daughter to do it if I had one?
Mhm.
Looking back, would I allow one of my pupils to do it? Probably not. Knowing the dangers of the stick fight, I think back then just there wasn't, I had no. It was sold to us as the safest full contact sport. And
Mhm.
then when you turn around, there's people's, collarbones getting snapped
Yeah,
and, hands getting broke and, the sticks are going through head guards.
mm,
So, yeah, I don't know. I think maybe because of that lack of experience of the fight, there wasn't the
mhm.
fear factor.
Yeah,
And then I think because my feet moved quite fast, um, I was able to get out of the way a bit more. But again, the Weka style is slightly different, isn't it? So
yes, yeah,
I did luckily have a
crashing,
lot
yeah,
of speed.
yeah, yeah,
So you're moving around a lot, the body to the head to the body, and then your abanicos round, and then
yeah,
trying to parry out, move out, and then
yeah.
get your bigger shots. So it kind of, I think my speed compensated for the weight difference.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
And that's, maybe I was just blessed. Maybe I was given this journey for a reason as well,
mm-hmm.
to maybe open those doors so that then more little girls will say, do you know what, I want to do it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
So
yeah. So during the time that you were basically competing, you already had background in dance.
yeah, yeah.
So how did your dance help you
I
in
think
prepare you for your competition?
I think basically, again, like if I've had poor fights, it's because I've been flat on my feet. So I'm either one of those fighters that if I'm really motivated and I feel in danger, I do better.
Hmm.
Well, I feel like I'm under pressure, I do better.
Yeah,
But if I don't feel pressured, I'll kind of slog it out a little bit and I'll be low on my feet. But when I'm up on my toes, I'm moving, and
all
I
right.
feel it's the movement, and I think the basic Irish dance jump 2-3 is very similar to the chicken steps, and there was a lot of similarity with obviously the illustrissimo footwork. So I mean, Nigel was teaching a lot of that to start with as well, when we first started training. So it was smaller footsteps, and so even I applied it in the Thai boxing as well. So if someone was coming in with a kick, so instead of all the time blocking because it's shin to shin, just like
Yeah.
a little footstep back. So the little footsteps, and then the little movement 2-3s to angle out. So it's that 1-2-3, and then you're in position again. So it doesn't matter if you're left lead or right lead, if that makes sense. So it's just it fits together quite well, to re-angle.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
because you've got the distance with the stick as well,
yeah.
your head's in a more like upright position. So you don't always need to do as much of the bobbing and weaving. So you're
Hmm.
using your stick as a shield
Yeah, yeah,
because
yeah.
the feet are moving you. So
Ah,
the stick become, yeah,
well, I mean,
if that makes sense.
yeah, it does, it does, it does. I mean, we have always like kind of people have talked about even before that dance, understanding rhythm, understanding
Mm-hmm.
footwork, or basically having experience in dance could actually help in
Mm-hmm.
understanding your footwork when you do martial arts. And also bearing in mind, footwork is not just really about moving your feet, but it's also about body displacement. So
Mm-hmm.
it's actually nice to see somebody like yourself. who is adept both in dancing and in fighting, managing to basically have that kind of fusion.
Yeah, it's weird as well now looking at how it translates into the boxing, because it's the theory thing, isn't it? The theory that
Mm.
everything's the same but different. I think
Yeah.
Grandmaster Yuli Romo said that to me before. He said, Rebecca, everything is the same. It's all the
Hmm.
same.
And
It's just the same,
that
and it doesn't
Grandmaster
make
Yuli
sense
also
all the time.
dances. You know that Grandmaster Yuli also dances, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, he does.
I nicknamed him Grandmaster Bendy when we were in the Philippines, because he was just so flexible. But it's the syncopation of the movement, isn't it? Through feeling the floor, through the spine, and the rest of the body moves.
Mm,
But not many people kind of nail it, do they?
yeah,
And then you've got the different power dynamics. Whereas whether you're punching or whether you're striking, it's
yeah.
it's an interesting one.
All right. Anyway, so you basically like brought Grandmaster Yuli Romo in a discussion now. So I'm going to show a picture to everybody. You training with Grandmaster Yuli Romo. How was it?
Amazing. I mean, again, he's one of those masters that kind of pulled me to one side after my first fight my first padded stick fight at the World Invitational, so the
Hmm.
2005 First World Championships
Yeah.
for the Philippine Council. And he was giving me lots of pointers, lots of tips, and I think he's just got this fire about him, and this
Yeah.
passion and this love of the art that you don't always get in the Western communities. You don't, but it's just the fluidity of his movement. And obviously it translates a lot to the blade art with that
Mm.
fluidity. But when you translate that to the stick as well, you're getting more of an injection of power through on your strikes. So yeah, is just phenomenal.
Yeah, even during back then, GM Yuli has basically developed quite a lot of accomplished fighters. He was
Mm.
one of the best coach there is in the Philippines. His understanding of tactics, his understanding of movement is just fantastic.
He always kept saying to me, Rebecca, you're a free spirit just like me. And some of the things he said, I've not always understood until like 10 years later, 15 years later. Then I'll get a random message off him, are you free for a chat? And he'll it's
Yeah.
like when I need that little bit of input, people are
Mhm.
there with the little
Mhm.
bits of input, which has always been interesting as well. So,
Nice, nice.
yeah.
Okay, Kurt has a comment here. The kinesthetic control and the neuroplasticity of a dancer turned martial athlete is amazing. Yeah, very true. And Eric confirms GM Yuli is a movement genius. He is.
Mm.
Yeah, he is. I mean, even when he teaches, for example, Calis Illustrisimo, he manages to actually do it in his own way. So
Mm.
you can see like, okay, it has like already like he has already digested it, and he can actually perform it in his own way. So not Tatang's, not Mang Tony Diego's, but GM Yuli's way. So
Isn't that part of mastery though? When you
exactly,
truly end up mastering something,
exactly,
it's that unique.
exactly, and that's how you know when when a particular teacher is actually um, experienced enough to be called a master.
Mm.
So it's not just a certificate or a rank, but because of experience and even to be called as a grandmaster, I would
Mhm.
say. Okay. Um, oh yeah, Dean Franco said "Hips of Death" by GM Yuli Romo. Brett Reese, I love the fact that Mr. Kurt L used the word kinesiology in another way. I have not. Okay. Uh, so, right. I still have a few. Okay. This picture is the first World Invitational Arnis Championship. I think this is 2005.
Yep, so that's when the Philippine Council were formed with Senior Grandmaster Roland Dantes leading it. So there was a small amount of us from the UK that were invited to take
Hmm.
part in it.
Okay.
So we were like the chosen ones to go across and give it a go. So it was quite a humbling experience.
All right. I mean, the Philippine Council was actually, as I mentioned, was the sort of like the basis or the catalyst of the British Council.
Hmm.
And you were there with you were there with Pat O'Malley, right?
Yeah, yeah. So I think I was made a delegate as well, because I think there's some pictures they got me up. I was handing black belts and things out as well, and then we had the first British Championships for the British Council as
Hmm.
well. So I ended up I won that as well. So I was the champion. I was the first British Council female British champion. Again,
Wow.
I think I was only maybe 20 then as well, so I was still young, but still fighting there wasn't any women my weight, so it was the open weight women, so it was lightweight and middleweight women.
Wow.
So it was kind of like the women's open weight British Championships.
Okay. So
um,
who did you fight then?
so that was I fought Lucy O'Malley at that one, and there's a lady that's gone into the Dog Brothers now, and I should remember her name. And it's gone. I've sparred her a few times because I went to a few Dog Brother sparring days as well at a later
Okay.
date, and became friends with Ben Rittner as well.
All right.
Um, but I can't remember her name. She was Scottish. She was I think she was married to Paul Smith, who did Wing Chun and Arnis. He
All
was
right.
also
Okay.
in the pictures. Yeah, so she fought at that.
So you did Dog Brothers as well.
Well, only a couple of sparring days. So because when I did my black belt grade, so my instructor grade with Pat
Hmm.
O'Malley, that was my first
Hmm.
instructor grade.
Yeah.
We had to do the Black Eagle fights, and
Yes.
sorry, Shelley, I do get that wrong. Shelley, she was called. She didn't go into the Dog Brothers. It was someone else
Hmm.
who came to Rapid Arnis who then went into Dog Brothers. So that's a different opponent completely. I do apologise. I've just got two people
Hmm.
mixed up.
All right. Okay.
It's hard to remember sometimes when you've got the head guards and stuff on. So yeah, because they saw me do the Black Eagle fights, which was again against men.
Yes.
They invited me to some of the Dog Brother sparring days. So I went to two of the sparring days, and then Ben Rittner flew over to my gym opening in 2009 when we had Wanderlei Silva come to open it. And my
Okay.
claim to fame is that Wanderlei Silva said I was crazy because he saw me do a dog Brother sparring match at my open day. So yeah, that was fun.
I mean,
So again, it was great to kind of look at things from a different perspective as well, and
yeah.
just see, well, okay, we're stood up now. How does the striking relate to then the grappling and into the takedowns?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it was interesting to take a look at, and I think after that, I then kind of wanted to focus a bit more on the Thai boxing. So it's just finding that path.
Okay. So from Eskrima, you started going to Thai boxing, and how long was that? Like the gap between the.
So I retired from the stick fighting tournaments when I was 21. So it's really weird, isn't it? Because a lot of people start when they're 30. So I retired at 21, quite happy with the achievements that I had,
Mhm.
because I did the Dossie Paris World Championships as well. I got 3 golds at that. So I was really, it kind of felt a little bit like, is there any point kind of going back and fighting the same opponents
Mhm.
in Britain?
Yeah.
It's great going to the Philippines, and like I say, you know, at the 2006 one, I had 9 opponents or 10
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
opponents,
Yeah. Yeah.
so
Yeah.
that was great. It was great experience. But then in the UK, it felt like I'd hit a plateau where
Plateau. Yeah.
there wasn't going to be much improvement beyond it. And so I love the idea of just kind of focusing my time on teaching. And then I started focusing back on my dancing competitions again because I was qualifying to the World Championship. So I went out to Philadelphia and did a dance
Okay.
World Championships in 2009. And then I did one in Dublin and a few others. I then had a bit of a health issue. So in 2012, I kept getting like these chest infections and things, and it just stopped me from like competing for a little bit.
Okay.
But I got into the Thai boxing then and went straight to pro. So I only did one interclub in Thai before I
Okay.
did my first pro fight, and that girl was, I think she's now the world number one, but I knocked her down with a leg kick. So what was interesting for me was that, to me, the leg kicks were very similar to the striking shots with the stick.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the same kind of power dynamic, and it just kind of suited me because it's that same angle of attack, if you like.
Yes. Yes.
So
Same
yeah,
dynamic as
I
well.
took to that, and then I had a little bit of time off again, just focusing on, you end up focusing on other things, your business, your health, and things. And then I had a bit of a run again in 2017. I got back to competing in the dancing, and that's when
Yeah.
I finally won the dance world title and a few other titles, and then got back into I finally had my dream of a fight in Thailand, and that was at Suet Stadium, which is the oldest stadium in Phuket. So like
Wow.
all your WBC world champions, most of them have had fights there. So it's like quite a historic stadium to fight at.
Yeah.
So of course I took the banner home with me, because they put you on the banners and things over there. So yeah, it was like the dream to kind of do that. But again, I wouldn't say I had a complete, you can't really, when you've got to such a level in another discipline, you can't really morph into the YouTube Thai boxer, can you? So it's like my hands it's the hands of harness, isn't it? And then
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
kicks.
Yeah. Yeah.
So could it be Yao Yan? Could it be classed as Yao Yan? I'm not sure.
Could
But
be.
yeah, yeah, Yao Yan is the
You're
Filipino
basically
Thai boxing, really, isn't it?
you
So
basically have the bolo punch going as
yeah,
well.
yeah, and obviously then the boxing I'm kind of moving into now to see, can I do it? So I've got my first match next week. Next week on
Mhm.
Friday.
Yeah.
So again, it's like the stance is different and the striking's different.
Yeah.
So obviously, can I get away with my movement that I got away with in the stick fighting?
Mhm.
And then just throw the shots, because you could win it with a jab, couldn't you? So
Yeah. Yeah.
could you win it and just kind of outbox them with that footwork? It's going to be interesting to see, and interesting to experience. So
Yeah. I mean, you're basically you definitely would have some kind of transition as well
yeah,
with your movements and everything. So, and you need to be able to like to experience it to basically to test your theories, to test your principles of how you're gonna get through it.
yeah, and I think, to me as well, I don't look at it now as though, I think because I achieved what I wanted to achieve with the dancing and with the
Yeah.
Filipino stick fighting.
Hmm.
I kind of, you get to a level where maybe you are at that pinnacle of where you're
Hmm.
going to be. So then anything else is just an extra. So
Yeah.
anything
Yeah. Yeah.
else is just, it's experience, and it's adding tools to your toolbox.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah. I'm
yeah,
going to show one more picture, and then
okay,
I know you prepared some demo, but I just want everybody to see this at this point. Do you see how, for those who are basically seeing this picture, do you see how high Rebecca jumped here? I think this is a new competition you're
yeah.
explaining to me, but the way you executed your jump, it's just so flipping
It,
high.
it became like my signature jump in Anyos then after that. So that picture is from Cebu City in 2000. And it was very, very close. It was very, very close. World Championships. I came second, and it was by 0.01 of a point.
Wow,
It was very
that's
close.
close.
It was
What?
really close. So I remember Bong Janales and his wife Wendy came up. They
They
bought
were
me
there.
a Janale system shell, and they
Yeah,
were, it felt, I came off. To me, I was just, playing about with my stick and then mixing my dancing and just enjoying it. And for people to come up to you and appreciate it is always nice. But yeah, it's you end up with these little memories, don't you? And
Yeah, I mean, okay, so your picture here, I have seen like Irish dancing, and I used to love watching Michael Flatley.
Yeah.
Okay, do it, and I mean, watching him like do these jumps, I'm already like amazed. But for you to be able to do this with a stick in your hand,
Mhm.
that's that's basically a different story. So, for example,
I
when
remember.
you prepare anyo,
I
how
think
much do you prepare for it?
I didn't really prepare much for it. I just kind of played about and then jumping and then mixing, and then I ended up with this move. And I remember these stories about Anyos in the Philippines, and there was a guy that was nicknamed the Ant Killer because he kept hitting the floor. And I was like, oh my god, that's a great idea because I could get the rhythm from hitting the floor. So
Yeah, yeah.
that made sense to me. So then I did that jump followed by hitting the floor twice and then sliding back and hitting the floor again. So it kind of ended up going into all my anyos.
Wow,
So no matter what I did, whatever music I threw on, I'd always try and get it to fit.
wow.
Have we? Is the screen frozen?
Yeah, a little bit. So maybe your signal, your network signal is a bit low, but it's fine. I can still hear you. Yeah, I hope
Okay.
people can still hear you. But I mean, you don't. I mean, I've seen people prepare like for their anyo competition, and they spend lots and lots of time to do it. You don't prepare much for it.
No,
You
I
just
put
basically like
them.
almost like I would say impromptu or
Yeah, more impromptu. I mean, when I put the music on, I think I spent more time trying to get my music edit for the Irish dance fusion one that I did in 2005.
all right.
So I spent more time kind of creating the music, and then I was just playing along to it, seeing how it felt, moving to the Irish music, and then moving the stick as well. I kind of went more by feel and flow.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I was performing it, I could then start hearing all this clapping and the cheering whilst the Anya was going on. And I think, I was like, oh, I've lost a bit of where I am, and no one noticed, and I just kept going. And that kind of surged you to keep going. And it's the first time I've ever seen a standing ovation in the Philippines for an Anyo. But it felt great, and it was just trying to find my own roots through the
Yeah,
through the
yeah,
art.
yeah. I mean, you must have like you must belong to like generations of fighters and dancers. Okay. Because you can just feel the music and go with it. It's almost like it's embedded in you. It's running through your brain, through your veins, actually.
Yeah, I heard. Obviously, I think one of my great aunties. There was rumor that she was an All Ireland dance champion, and on my dad's side, there was rumor that there was one of the Kanes that was a boxing world champion. And then obviously the stick fighting would have come into Irish culture a
Yeah.
long time ago anyway, because as well, the dance masters would go from village to village with what was very much the same as a Filipino weighted fighting stick. So it'd have the
Mhm.
metal tip on the end. So just like the ones that will be used in the death matches.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But it's interesting because the Irish traditionally wouldn't have any systemization in anything. So even the
Hmm.
dancing wouldn't be as systemized and rigid as it is today. And it's been done that way today, just mainly for the competition circuits, so that they
Oh.
could promote Irish culture around the world. So it gave it a system. Whereas before that, the dance master would go from village to village. There was Cayley dancers taught to those who weren't as able, and normally they'd throw a door down on the floor for you to dance on, so you wouldn't have this you wouldn't have this structure. And I think that would then definitely apply to the Irish arts as well. So so
Oh,
there definitely wouldn't be the rigidity, and I think that's what you see with people like Yuli Romo and some of the more
mm, yeah.
some of the older Filipino styles that are maybe more jungle based. It's
Mm,
that
mm,
flow
mm. Yeah.
and the
Yeah.
lower stances, the flow. It's just a different.
Yeah. Because there is well, I mean, a lot of the Filipino martial arts didn't start as a system. Okay,
Yeah.
so it doesn't have any structure. So it was more organic, like
Hmm.
how Irish dancing is, and it has its own value because it basically allows you to work it from inside
Hmm.
to really find how it connects with you rather than always memorizing a lot of things. So it allows you to breathe. It allows you basically to really internalize the not the system, not the system, but the movement with you.
Hmm.
Wow.
I think that's something that I used to struggle on as well when I first started teaching, was following the syllabus book, because
Mm,
when I
mm.
did this with the syllabus book and just taught free flow, people were picking up faster. And it's like
Yeah,
now, I'm teaching a blind child to do the dancing. And again, I can't go from the competition
no,
structure.
no, you
It's
won't
the
be able
free flow,
to.
and it's like, okay, you're
Mm,
getting this bit now, so let's
yeah,
move on to the next bit.
yeah.
So yeah, I'd say would that be an old school method of teaching, pre-westernization, pre-belt gradings?
Could be,
Probably so.
could be, yeah, could be.
Um,
I mean, the thing, especially when I've seen basically all the videos you teaching, yeah, teaching basically your blind student, and I'm always amazed basically how your student is progressing. When you're teaching somebody like that, or when you're coaching somebody like that, you can, you have to at one point, uh, kind of like stay away from being structured. you
mm,
need you need to be able to sometimes wing it,
yeah,
sometimes be make it impromptu, always allowing yourself to adjust to the situation and to the conditions at hand.
mm.
Yeah,
It's absolutely, and I truly think, like, well, that definitely will have been the case with almost every art form
yeah,
traditionally.
yeah,
So yeah,
yeah,
it's that flow.
yeah. Okay, there is a question here. There are two questions from Brett and Kurt. I'm gonna start with Kurt first. Have you found that your dancer's musicality influenced your carenza? If so, how?
Absolutely, and I think it did with the fighting as well. So, like, I had a stick in my hand, and if you imagine in the Irish step dance, the hard shoe element, we are drumming, so we are a drummer. Same as like in traditional Filipino music and folk, you would have the drummers that would be drumming to a traditional anyo. So my feet are the drum, and then when I pick the stick up, I'd be trying to make the same beats as I was making with my tapping. So
Okay.
going in triplets. So really changing the tempo. So where you've got, like, again, your systemized ways of learning. So you'd have, say like rapid harness would be your 12. Yeah. Other styles, 5 strikes.
Yeah.
Then you've got like your harnessed abanico, which is all the different abanicos, different angles. But
Yeah.
then if you mix it up, I was literally getting the Irish dance shuffle 1 and 2, shuffle 1 and 2. So down da 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 dum dum da da dum, and just playing with those rhythms, and it was just breaking the. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe I've worked it out now, 23 years later, that I was actually breaking their rhythms. So I used to practice a lot where I'd just look at angles coming in towards me, because again, when it got to the point where I was competing against my coaches, so Lucy O'Malley at one point was one of my coaches. So again, that was kind of a little bit unethical, and it was hard, because you go to sessions and you'd feel the atmosphere. So I was training myself a lot for those last world title fights, the ones in the Philippines, the Dossie Paris ones, and the British Council events. So I'd just practice where angles would be coming at me, and I would practice the defenses from those angles, but again, just using those rhythms. So an
Okay.
angle one's coming in, an angle two's coming in, if that makes sense. I go off on a
Yeah.
tangent a lot as well, so I
No,
do apologise.
no worries. Would you be able to show us?
Go on. What would you
Yeah.
like me to show?
Can you show us an anyo? The way you do
So
it.
I'll flow about with one.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
so
Just
you end up having like your favourite sticks and things, don't you? So obviously there's always the banter about the twirling and stuff being very uh, flowery and things like that. So what I would do is a lot of bigger movements. So I'd be here doing bigger movements and round. So I'm just going to free play because it's what I do. It's been a while since I've been in Forenza.
No, that's
I
fine.
love the floor hitting. So the jump, my signature jump, would come
Wow.
up and hit the floor like that, hit the floor and come up.
Wow. Oh, oh man. Yeah, it's frozen.
I'd hit my knee.
Oh, did
So I'd
you?
always crack my knee. And if I cracked my knee, I knew I was going to win. If I didn't hit it,
All right.
I was going to get a silver or bronze. So
Okay. I mean, it's actually nice. It's good that the way you're basically looking at it is from the point of view of the what's this? The drum beats, the broken rhythms, which is really important. And like Brett basically said here, love the fact that you express the rhythm of music as an important factor. It is, I mean, as we have said, I mean, doing martial arts, doing your carenza, it's like dancing, except that in dancing you basically comply to a music, but in carenza you make your own music, you make your own rhythm, so you can practically play with your half beats, quarter beats, three-quarter beats, full beats, and everything. So wow. So I hope you guys. Well, I think there were some of it. You the picture was frozen, but I hope guys you managed to catch some of the demo. That was nice.
did it freeze during as well?
Mm. Yeah, there were some parts of it. I saw some parts, and then there was some parts that were frozen. So yeah, or you go the beat of the music. Yeah, that's true, Brett. Yeah. So like when for example when you were like preparing for for your fight, um, trying to like create distance, okay, and going basically and managing distance as well, and intercepting your opponent. How would you go? How would you go? How would you go about it?
So I trained very differently, I think, as well, for a child athlete going into early adulthood. So I asked somebody, how did you get really fast? And they said they hung a tennis ball on a clothes line outside, and they'd
Hmm.
hit the tennis ball. So it's a little bit like a boxing speed bag, but for your stick. So of
Yeah.
course I had a tennis ball hung up outside, and I would try and get that for the timing. I tried to change it to a golf ball as well, but it was a little bit more dangerous with the golf ball. And then also I'd train for a 10-week cycle, and I would train and start at 20 rounds of sparring,
Okay.
and then I would build up to 100 rounds of sparring before a world championships.
Okay.
So I would build right up. So I'd probably overtrain for where I needed to be. So where in the UK where there wasn't possibly the amount of fights, although some of those fights were obviously very good quality. I mean, we know how well some of those fighters that I did fight did. I think I made up for it with the pure amount of sparring. And then what I'd also do, as I say, was a lot of the technical work. So someone coming in with
Mm.
a strike, I'd have multiple opponents as well.
Hmm. Yeah.
So that you're obviously getting your reaction time up and learning your distance, lines on the floor. I did a little bit, I jumped in to do a bit of fencing as well when I was at university,
All
because I
right.
thought
Okay.
that would help.
Yeah, would
That
help.
would help with the distance and timing. And then I started
Yeah,
playing squash twice a week, and I bought the smallest headed squash racket
that's gonna be a
because
lot
I
of
thought
cardio.
that would emulate hitting the hands.
Yes. Yeah.
So I kind of adapted things a little bit.
Oh, okay. Wow. So at least uh, you managed to like create a training program for yourself,
Yeah, and
which
going to the park a lot and hitting the trees. So again, also changing the weights of the sticks. So in order to build the power, I had a heavy gamma gong.
yeah,
So I'd use a gamma gong just very slowly and
yeah,
just
yeah, yeah,
go through
yeah,
the flow for the power,
yeah,
and then for the speed, a very very light stick,
yeah,
and just do rounds where see how many seconds you can get to before
yeah,
your arm just dies, and then try and beat it.
yeah.
So
Okay. So basically, that's your way of what we call
interval.
training to failure.
Yep.
Yep, and your interval training. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, because that's a good way actually to challenge your energy
Mhm.
system and your muscular endurance as well. Yeah, brilliant. Okay, so Brett made a comment here. A question important may be: does one add to their toolbox or delete tools unused from it?
That is it is a good one, because I think when you end up training one art that then becomes your main base art because you're competing with it, you do end up flushing some of the other tools out, and your style
Mhm.
changes,
Yeah.
and then you forget things, and then you'll then suddenly remember something, and then you've got a bit of a style change again. So that is
Hmm.
a really good one.
Yeah, that's true. I think everybody goes to that.
Mm,
I mean, even when because he actually had a follow up to this, or is a work of art created by adding to or chipping away at. So I think
yeah.
it's the same. And I mean, when you start like progressing, when you start becoming more experienced, there are certain things that you will keep, and there are certain things that you're basically just I don't need this anymore. You you
Yeah,
you basically adjust to your growth as well, isn't it?
yeah, because I think as well you'd end up getting a bit stale in your
Yeah.
training. So I think you've always got to have something that you're researching,
Yep.
even if it's just a variation of one of the same things. Because again, I used to see a lot of crossover with the traditional karate. So
Hmm.
say like the katas of Wadaru, so kata shinto, which is just like the entries from the Hubud drills.
Yeah.
Um, and obviously Okinawa was a trading port, so I'd go down a little other rabbit hole where I'd be trying to link the arts together.
Hmm.
And I think sometimes maybe that's a blessing and it's also a curse, because you end up sometimes overthinking, and then
That's
when you
true.
overthink, you're holding yourself back rather than
That's
truly
true.
going with the flow.
That's true.
So
That's true. That's true.
yeah,
That's basically when you come out of your zone, when you
yeah,
overthink and
yeah,
you don't become spontaneous.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So Kurt has a comment here. Carenza, active meditation and the process of problem solving your personal biomechanics. That is really true.
Hmm.
I mean, almost
Absolutely.
doing Carenza is a type of mindfulness practice.
Hmm.
That's how you become aware of your body movement, your
Hmm.
relationship to space, your relationship sort of to your imaginary opponent, and basically how you move your body in certain moments. Okay, Brett has a follow-up question. Should one train as they fight?
Two answers. So, one answer: if you are unable to turn on the switch to when you get in the ring and you're in fight mode, then you might have the mindset where you have to train exactly how you're going to fight. The problem with that is, which there we go into like another rabbit hole. If you were to do that, you run out of training partners because you end up damaging them.
Hmm.
So, and you're risking more injuries for yourself as well. So, you kind of need to balance the training, and that's hard because not every coach and not everybody can get that mindset to balance it. But you need to be doing a bit of technical work as well, because then you're also preserving your energy systems. Because
That's
if it's all
true.
burnout,
Yeah,
then
that's
you
true.
will just burn out. You'll hit a wall.
That's true. That's quite true. Actually, that's Brett's question, comment or question is actually a valid one. But I think what people need to realize is in everything you do, you have to always approach things that you got a hard day and an easy day. You
Hmm.
need to have a day wherein you go all out, and then you need to have a day where you go technical.
Hmm.
To soften it a little bit, because that's going to be like food for your thoughts. And just like what Kurt said, it becomes like a meditation for you, a
Hmm.
way for you to discover, to become aware of how your body is moving, how you basically solve problems, okay,
Yeah.
by basically moving your body. So yeah, that's really true. What you pointed out with regards to training as you fight is true, because like, I mean, I'm amazed with your development, okay, because like from your age 15 you were already like fighting almost like opposite sex adults.
Mm.
And I mean, you're really up for it. You don't back down. It's like
There was no choice. There was there. It was like I was told, no, you can't do ring sports. Right, okay. I think I find out years later it's probably because of a bit of a chauvinist attitude. But then it's pushed me into building this platform that's a different kind of platform.
mm,
Um, would it have been more dangerous had I been doing the ring sports against boys of that age?
yeah,
That
that's true.
that's possibly
That's a different
another
one. Yeah.
question. But how do we know the impact of the strikes at a later
mm,
age as well?
mm,
Because those sticks, when they come in, the head guards are not infallible. There's lots of chinks in the armor.
yes,
And when you
yes.
felt one crack your temple, you feel it, and you feel it for days after. So
There is.
I think there's a certain amount of punishment that a human can take as well. And
Yeah,
I think there is a shelf life with every combat sport.
of course,
Um,
of course. Yeah, I mean, I'm going to give an example. Taekwondo. So
yeah.
before prior to Olympics, prior to Olympic Taekwondo, before they were actually allowed in the Olympics, Taekwondo actually has the highest head concussion, even compared to boxing, because
Wow.
because they were allowed kicks in the head.
The kicks, yeah.
Yeah, and that is basically their biggest biggest sale, head kicks, and
Mhm.
that's how they win fights. But because of that practice, yeah, they actually beat boxing as far as head concussion is concerned after as an injury. So one of the things that the Olympic IOC actually told them is the only time that will be able to allow you in the Olympics is if you can basically address this issue. So you need to make sure that you make the sport safer for everybody to participate. And that's the reason why, although a lot of people, of course, like laugh at Taekwondo now, how things
Mhm.
are done in the Olympics, but it is because of this. They have to reduce the amount of head concussion
Mhm.
after competition events. So yeah, and yeah, and that's basically why they have to like adjust things. Right. So yeah, the same as with Screama, because when we used to do sparring, like we don't, even before, we don't use the thin sticks.
Mhm.
So
It's the
it's
full
the
stick
regular ones.
paddle.
Yeah, not even padded. We didn't even use padded back then. So I mean, when you hear the crack of the stick on your headgear,
Mm.
Yeah, it really shakes you.
Well, that's why we had to start using the skin sticks, wasn't it? Because
Yeah,
the full skin
exactly.
sticks were literally crashing through the helmets.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Kurt has a question. What are you doing for cognitive longevity for post-concussion protocol for yourself?
Really good question. I mean, to be honest, it's like even though I've been moving into the boxing, I don't like to. I think because I did a lot of sparring when I was younger with the stick fighting, and because obviously it was a different type. I don't agree with all the very hard sparring that the other people do in Britain. So they tend to just do hard spars before fights. So they won't do any sparring in the training at all, pretty
Mm.
much, and then they'll just do very hard spars. And when they say hard spar, they're essentially just having a fight, but with the head guard on.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So yeah, I haven't really thought about longevity other than I do try and do meditation and things like that.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, that
Okay.
that is something to consider for moving forward because I don't have much of my shelf life left in combat sports. So yeah,
All right. Yeah. Um, Concussion, it is about frequency over protracted time, not about singular catastrophic impact. Yeah, that's true. That's true.
yeah.
But I mean, like I mentioned, PKD before, you're always being subjected to all those head kicks.
I mean, in the boxing, like I've had brain scans and stuff. So I was doing an application with the British Border Control, and they make you go for brain scans. So I have had brain scans that I've had very good brain scan results. So I
Yeah,
guess from a preemptive point of view, it would be have the brain scans, and then if you noticed any changes
yeah, that's true.
you'd pull yourself out. You wouldn't take on extra fights that would just be stupid because,
Yeah, yeah,
like I said earlier, I've kind of achieved what I've achieved a lot, and I think in the end, I must have had about 8 stick fights in the end. Even so it's quite a lot, and then we've not even looked at the other sparring days that I've done, and then with the kickboxing K1 Muay Thai stuff, I've had another 32 fights.
wow.
So it is quite a lot of fights now. I feel blessed because I didn't, even when I fought in Thailand, the girl didn't really catch me much at all.
Mhm.
Look, and the fight videos out there. But yeah, if I'd have been coming out with cuts and bumps and things like that, I think it's a point where you do need to maybe make sure you get your psycho and neuropsychological assessments and things
Mhm.
like that done.
Mhm.
And just if you notice any changes or you're having to put post-it notes up and about the place, get yourself checked. So
Yeah, especially when
yeah.
you get into those fights, you really have to look after yourself.
Yeah, because and I
That's the
think from
aspect.
an endurance point of view, I think the tireder that you get, your guard's going to go down. And
Mm.
I mean, the first fight that I'm going to do, I've gone back. So at the moment, instead of continuing with the border control, I'm going back to semi-pro because obviously we've had lockdown and
Yeah, yeah.
things as well that have got in the way. So it's going to be 3 2-minute rounds. So I think that's good enough for a challenge after being kind of cold and not doing any fights for 3
Mm.
years.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I
yeah.
think a
Yeah.
3 2-minute rounds is a more sensible thing to do. Obviously, it's
Mm.
no head guards,
Yeah, yeah.
and it's 8-ounce gloves, so it's a dangerous weight, really.
Hmm.
Even though they say it's semi-pro, there's no head guards. So yeah, it's a good enough challenge.
Mm. Okay.
So
You had 32 fights in kickboxing or Muay
yeah,
Thai.
so it was across K1 and Thai, wherever I could kind of get the experiences. And again, some of those were where they don't give a decision, but there were demo fights and things. So I've had demo fights with like other world Thai boxing champions,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
and again, yeah, it's great experience. I think I did receive a kick to the head in one of them from Dakota Daicheva. So I think she's in UFC now. So yeah. And I kept walking forward, to be fair to me. But yeah, there's only so much you can take.
Yeah, that's true.
So
What's your stats in Muay Thai kickboxing?
when you say stats,
How
like wins and
many yeah,
losses
yes,
and stuff.
losses and
So in 2018, I did 10, 10 fights, and then the fight in Thailand, and I think it was 8 wins. So I lost one kickboxing fight, so nine, but
nine.
eight technical knockouts.
Wow, that's impressive.
But yeah, and then there were some other fights that were they were like but it was like a boxing event, but that a kickboxing tournament had organized, but it was 2 1-minute rounds, so I kind of
Hmm.
don't count that as a fight.
All right. Okay.
I
Okay.
put that
Okay.
on the like,
Like sort of like a training.
yeah, like I don't count that, because you weren't allowed to kind of hit the opponent, so it was like a minute round, but you had to go fast, but not you had to really power down. So I thought, well, it's experience with just using your hands, but it's not really. It's a bit
Hmm.
like, you can't really call it anything, can you?
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
and I did one of those against a girl that I found out after we came out of the ring that she was a boxing world champion. So on Instagram, when the picture went up, Nicola Adams, and people liked
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was like, okay, I didn't know who she was, but okay. But it was a great experience.
Mhm.
So yeah.
And of course, when you were doing your Muay Thai kickboxing, your dance background also helped you with your movement.
I think definitely. I think in Thailand again, that fight looked a little bit more. I was calm. I think, like you said earlier, when you're in that zone, and I
Mm.
think it's because we did the Y crew as well. Whereas I only managed to get to do one pro Thai fight in the UK, and then one pro in Thailand, and then all the others were like what they class as semi-pro. But you do belts, but semi-pro. It's a bit confusing. But there's a lot of the pros, they jump on these circuits as well. It's
Mm.
confusing. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like I've been guided into trying the boxing now rather than staying in the Thai. And I think,
Yeah.
even though I came out of the A class fight in Thailand relatively literally unscathed, but I was a little bit aware, like the gentleman said earlier, have you got anything in place about concussion plans? And I was thinking,
Mm.
well, I want to keep dancing, and do I want to bash my shins?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because if
Yeah.
you bash your shins in the UK, you're not going to recover the same. So it's great to do those fights, but if you're in Thailand, you're going to recover quicker. You've got the sun. Whereas in
Yeah.
Britain, you
Yeah,
can't.
you won't be able
It
to.
is dangerous to realistically do more than like one fight every 3 to 4 months
Hmm.
from a recovery point of view, because even the odd little nick, it's bone to bone contact. So yeah, it's very different.
Okay. Um, Comments here. TKD was from Brett. TKD was mostly our first art in the Americas after boxing. Your art is a big plus to us as Brazil's BJJ is and China's Chisao. We are each but one of we think correctly. Lawrence, in TKD, I usually do study sparring, where we practice the techniques and then armored sparring to apply them in full speed. Yeah, I think it's pretty much universal with all those things when it comes to fighting and combat sports. So, I mean, is there anything that you prepared for us besides like showing your anyo? Your
I don't know. I'm always pretty free flow, so I kind of go by. If you got a question, I'll try and answer it. And if what are you wanting? Are you wanting me to demonstrate some boxing, some?
Yeah, yeah, kickboxing. How you basically fuse it with your dance steps and everything.
Okay, so I mean, the last I've been playing about, or in lockdown, I had a bit more time, and I was playing about with the boxing fused into the Irish dancing. So I got like Eye of the Tiger on, and I was
Yeah,
there with my
yeah,
hard shoes, trying to find the position of the stances,
yeah, yeah.
really as well, and boxing along with it. So um, Yeah, and
Yeah.
I've not got my hard shoes on, but yeah.
All
So,
right. We'll see.
it's like basically like the rhythms. I don't think you can hear them on the mat. So then just start adding the punches in and then moving and playing. Again, I think you can see the stick when I even go to block. So it might not be as conventional as other boxes.
Wow. I think I need to learn Irish dancing now.
It
It's
kind
gonna
of
be
it goes and it comes and it. Yeah, it just
smooth. I mean, the way you do your transition from one to the other, it's just you're not even thinking about it. You just go for it.
is that a good thing though, or is that
It's a good thing. It is a good thing because I mean, for a lot of people, you can see basically that you understand rhythm, you understand body mechanics, and you understand basically how your body moves, which is really important because this is where you're going to see some people having a hard time to adjust to, and this is why sometimes they do uh, respond to situations a little bit slower because they tend to overthink it. They don't free themselves when they do these things. They it's almost like they want to be as perfect as possible to the point wherein they're even like afraid to do it anymore.
I think
Okay.
I've been in those moments though as well. Like when I'm trying to learn a new technique,
Mm-hmm.
like say with a bot, I'll go and I'll right, okay, I'm going to try and drill that stance to death, and then try and really feel it, and it feels awkward. And then when you just again get that book and throw it,
Yeah, yeah,
it
yeah,
starts
yeah.
to feel a bit better. But as I said, I don't. It's one of them. It's going to be interesting to see how I do with the boxing sort of stuff and where it does take me. I mean, I'm not going out to kind of take over the world in it, but just see what
Yeah.
the differences. I mean, it's great, like from a Filipino point of view, knowing that the American boxing changed because of the takeover in the Philippines, and the Americans would be boxing against the Filipino knife fighters. So it's interesting to see because yeah, the British boxing used to be like
Yes.
this, and obviously the Kerambit work it's going to be interesting to see how it does go together. But I think that the strange thing is putting the gloves on
Hmm.
has been the hardest thing for me to mentally get, even though okay, I went into the Thai and the K1, but because obviously I started off in a karate background, so I was used to kicking.
Hmm.
So I was used to sticking and kicking, and then the dancing. So it kind of fitted, but I think it's taken a lot more, maybe confidence wise, to get used to the actual boxing gloves,
Hmm.
which just seems really strange. It's not maybe come as naturally as it maybe should do with the experience from the Filipino arts,
Hmm.
but it's literally like just getting used to those gloves,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
which is yeah.
It's because I mean you have basically been through sort of competitions where you're actually like moving most parts of your butt, most not just your
Yeah,
arms, also your
we
legs and
check as
everything.
well, don't we, in the
Yeah,
stick? So we're there, we're checking, and
yeah.
so really we are doing jabs with the stick as well.
Mm,
It's just you're so used to, maybe that's what it is as well. You're so used to jabbing that your jab hand's actually missing their head because you're waiting for your stick to be there.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
you're getting used to the ranges,
Yes, as well.
the completely different
Yeah,
range, so the
yeah,
same but different.
yeah.
Yeah,
So yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure you'll be able to get used to it.
yeah.
It's just going to be a matter of like training it again,
Hmm.
and basically be able to understand those adjustments. You'll be fine.
I think
You'll
that's
be
that's where
fine.
my overthinking comes in, and then I hold myself back a bit. So yeah.
Okay. Well, if basically you want um, you want to do a session for mindfulness, let me know.
Cool. So are
I
you doing that as well as
Yes, I
the
actually
Filipino stick?
I am a mindfulness life coach, and
Cool.
one of the things that basically I did when I came over here was coach a boxer turning from amateur to pro.
Okay.
He had only 5 fights before he broke his wrist because
Mm.
his trainer actually overtrained him. So
Mm-hmm.
he broke his wrist just during his fifth fight. So he actually lost that. But his first four, I was basically coaching him. And
Okay.
when Tommy Moore, my friend
Mhm.
Tommy
Yeah,
Moore,
funny.
yeah, did his first 2 fights, I was actually like doing some mindfulness with him. So I mean, let me know
Cool.
if you
Yeah,
want that.
because you
Yeah,
end up you get into that many different things, and then
mm,
you're going right. Okay, I'm going to take this challenge on, and then
yeah,
you're still running your own school, and you're doing all this stuff, and
yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
But it's learning not to put that pressure on yourself, isn't it? And
It's
that's the key.
basically yeah, it's basically learning how to balance all these things, especially the because the moment you start becoming excited,
Hmm.
your arousal level goes up. So it's learning how to control all those things because that will determine if you'll manage to control your emotions, control your energy, control your anxieties in the fight or not. So
Hmm.
yeah. Okay, so
Cool.
Brett's a question. When you strike Bob or a bag, do you wear mitts?
Yeah. So, what's really strange? We always used to wear like the really little bag mitts, so
Mm-hmm.
the really small ones. And what I
Mm-hmm.
noticed when training at some of the professional boxing gyms is that they all tend to wear the 10-ounce
Mm-hmm.
or 12-ounce boxing gloves when they're on the bags. And I don't know if that's something that's a little bit different. So I've actually gone back to wearing the smaller mitts again because I think again like how I train with the lighter stick to build speed
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
the heavier stick to build power. I
Yeah,
think it's great you've got a heavier glove, but
yeah.
that's going to get you more powerful, but you can see your speed kind of going down.
That goes
So
down, yes.
yeah, and I always wrap as well. So now I've got these really cool gel wraps.
Yeah,
And they
yeah.
do because what I found when I was first training in with the professional boxing gyms is that the two knuckles there were taking a lot of impact compared to what they normally would,
Mm-hmm.
because obviously it's all punching, whereas the tie you're breaking it up with your kicks.
Yeah,
So just wrapping and making my own little padding things to put around my knuckles was okay. But there's these gel wraps and they're only literally a fiver on eBay. Um, and they're brilliant. And
yeah.
it just completely takes the impact
Yeah, the
out.
impact, yes. Yeah,
So
that's true. That's
yeah,
true. Yeah, and it's faster to put as well.
yeah, it's all day just there with your wraps.
Yeah, exactly.
So
Okay, Kurt has a question here. What are you doing to manage compassion fatigue when it comes to your athletes and coaching?
what am I doing to manage fatigue,
Compassion fatigue.
compassion fatigue?
Yeah, when it comes to your athletes and coaching.
When he says compassion fatigue, what is he meaning?
All right, let's wait
Or
for Kurt.
does he mean competition fatigue?
Um, maybe competition fatigue. Uh,
You kind of know by when you're looking in your students' eyes as well when they're training in a class, you can tell when someone's overtired. So
mm,
you don't. I refuse to overtrain someone, so I can tell when they start to flag, and that's when I'll get them stretching or doing something lighter.
mm,
So at the moment, since lockdown, we haven't got anyone competing in the martial arts. I've got a little girl who just did her first competition in the dance. Um, So it's just kind of the start again. So it's been a very slow restart. But in the past, I trained a lad who won a British title in kickboxing. And again, we trained. I like to train in those cycles. So if you know you've got an event, it makes it a lot easier to train for. What
Yeah.
I've noticed in when I moved across to the pro boxing, I was promised about maybe probably about 4 different debut dates. So you were trying to get yourself ready, and then it wasn't there, or something happened, and it
Mm-hmm.
wasn't going to happen. And so you had a lot. You'd lose your motivation a little bit. So I
You
think
do.
the pro game, and I guess it's the same in the Thai as well. So like the fight in Thailand, I took it with 2 weeks notice. But at least I knew, like, I've took a fight 2 weeks notice. I know there's going to be a fight. But if you're planning like 10 weeks ahead, and then you can see, there's pullouts on the day and things like that. Whereas when you're training for the pro amateur tournaments, you generally always get a fight. There was only one world championship where a girl pulled out on me
Okay.
as we were ringside, which was a bit, yeah. So you can kind of gauge the training and build up to it, and you can taper it off, depending on the person and what's going on with them as
Okay.
well. Because you
All right.
don't so I keep it to shorter session times now as well. So I'd
Okay.
rather do a 45 minute to an hour session, whereas I know I used to train myself and I'd go up to 100 rounds of sparring, but
Yeah.
100 1 minute rounds with 30-second rest.
Yeah. Okay.
So it was like 90 minutes of work, right? Something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Cool. Okay, so Kurt came back. So it's about empathy and emotional investment. So he
Okay,
said
so
this is a coaching emotional health and mindfulness question.
so
Compassion fatigue or emotional investment in your students.
I've built a light therapy room now as well. So in lockdown, I kind of felt a different vibe that was going on, and I kind of felt like, okay, I need a water feature. So I've got a real working well in my middle room. So I do go through, when I can see that the group is low energy level, we go into that middle room and we do a meditation, even if it's just
Okay.
for 10 minutes, and we put the lights on, and people, even the little children, like the tigers, the ages 4 to 7s, they've all been thankful. They've asked for it when they've wanted to do one as well. So they know it's kind of there for them. So
Hmm.
if you like, I've kind of added a bit of a well-being package to what I'm
Wow.
doing now. Because I think the world has changed drastically in the last 3 years as well. And would it be right to say that anybody has come out the same as we were before?
Yeah. No, there's
Um,
a lot of
it,
changes.
yeah, it's a lot of changes, and it's still changing rapidly.
Mm, that's true.
And it's like a constant adaptation
Mm,
to the world around us. So
yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Right. So I don't know if you guys still have questions for Rebecca, but my question for you now is this: so you've done stick fighting, you've done Muay Thai, you've competed in dance. I know that you're going for like boxing now, but
Mhm.
as far as like your teaching is concerned, okay, what is the future for you?
I mean, well, yeah, I'm sat thinking about that actually at the moment. So, I mean, I've set up a community interest company now, because what I noticed as well is, it's great teaching the lessons, but you can't always help the people that need the help, because they can't always afford to come.
Mm, that's true.
So in lockdown, I knew when I took this premises that I've got on, that it was going to be something slightly different, and not just a martial arts school where what's hard to get the balance of is, if you had it and it was a competitive school,
Mm,
it can then have a toxic environment if it isn't done in the right way. Whereas if
exactly. That's
it's
true.
if it's got that balance, you'll have your fighters who help the other students and the humble. So the plan is to still develop a competition team. I've got enough rooms here to be able to do that, but I wanted to help the people that really needed the help, and especially like women who are suffering from domestic violence
Ah,
backgrounds and things
good.
like that as well. So I've set up something else called New Direction Services. so that I can then help more people with what I do. So it isn't then just about, I think sometimes when you're teaching, again, the best thing I ever did was do this with that syllabus book. And okay, I wasn't grading people as frequently as maybe other clubs do. But you end up with a core of students who appreciate what you do and they feel that they're learning it in an old school manner. So it's not a McDojo.
Yeah.
So it can easily get to where you feel like you're a conveyor belt, where you're just teaching parrot fashion, and really, are you helping people in the way that they need to be helped? So I've kind of always seen myself as a confidence coach, not necessarily as a martial arts coach. So
Mm-hmm.
I
Why
could
not?
inspire someone when they come in, like, believe in yourself. You can
Yeah.
believe in yourself. That doesn't stop me going home and then overthinking about what my next challenge is and things like that, because I'm human. But yeah, I guess the thoughts for the future is just to keep developing the community aspects of the club, because at the end of the day as well, if you ever read the tenets of Filipino martial arts that Remy Presas wrote, and it was all about sportsmanship and how Filipino martial arts should make someone a better person, and how you should embody that, then that's kind of what I want to do. So it doesn't then matter
I
what
love that.
style they're learning. There's going to be that element of the Philippines throughout the
Yeah.
whole gym. Because no matter what I do now, really, it's hybridized, isn't it? So
Yep. True.
it can never really be the same.
That's true. And I deeply respect you for that, for what you
Thank
just said,
you.
especially with your advocacy to the community and how you want to bring confidence to other people
Well,
through.
if you think about it, there's a lot of barriers when we teach martial arts, and that main barrier is the finance side of it. And it's
Yeah.
great that, it's great that I've been able to have that opportunity to be able to learn. And okay, at some points, I wasn't able to compete in both sports at the same time sometimes, because you go through those peaks and troughs in life,
Yeah.
don't you?
That's true. That's
And but if you can help just one person and just change one life, then you're doing something that's pretty powerful, and then that has that ripple effect. So yeah, there's loads of projects that I kind of want to get my head into, but I'm just starting slowly, and then I want to build that into something bigger.
yeah.
But yeah, it's but bigger in the right way, in the sense that we're helping more people. So you build
Yeah.
a team of like-minded individuals, which are hard to
Yes.
find.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah. I mean, I'm saying now that your students are blessed to
thank
have you
you.
as their teacher, because your basically your heart is in the right place as you take the mantle of teaching, and you are sincere and genuine with your intentions when you teach. So
Even like with the Filipino martial arts as well, though, it's such a dangerous thing to teach, and
that's true.
I've always felt that we've got a moral obligation when we're
Yeah, that's
teaching,
true. That's true.
to not teach the wrong people as well, and to
Exactly.
filter our students. So
Exactly.
people have said to me like, "Oh, why are you not teaching an active Filipino class at the moment?" And I said, because I'm redoing it from the start, where I'm filtering my empty hand students,
Mm,
and then we're going to start again, but from where I've filtered the people coming
yeah,
through the door.
that's true.
And
That's
then
true.
it's slow. So
Yeah.
we're starting on the workshops with it. There is a lot of people that have wanted to learn from me online.
Mm,
And in lockdown, I started building some things, but that's another plan for this year, is to continue developing my online stuff.
that's good.
It's been time
Yeah.
constraints. You do the video edit and things like that. So I built a room in the basement so that I can film. 'Cause when lockdown lifted, there's a play gym business above me, and you can
Okay.
hear them. So yeah, I've sorted another room to kind
So
of get on with that now.
there's a
But
lot of
yeah, there's
things that
only so many
we
things
look
you can
forward.
do.
Mm. I mean,
So
the moment you're ready for that, I mean, you can always um, we can always help you promote
yeah,
your online store through FMA discussion as well. So just let me know.
so
Yeah.
but again, it's just building it in the right way, isn't it? Because
That's correct.
the
Yeah.
people that might want to come and learn from me are going to be different to people that come and want to learn from you. And I think that's where maybe sometimes in the past, the Filipino martial arts hasn't had the same development as some of the other styles, because
Mm.
I think there's been fear and there's been ego.
Oh, there's a
But,
lot of ego.
there's the space to develop it. Still in the UK, there's space to
Oh yeah,
develop something.
definitely, definitely.
And maybe I don't know what's going on with the sports stuff now. Occasionally, I dip my head in and I go and I say hello, but I haven't for a few years.
Okay,
So I don't know what's happening in that kind of realm.
all right.
Um, but
Okay,
yeah,
okay. So Julius is in the house. This is the question is really off. I mean, off topic of what we do. But
okay, okay.
okay, he is actually asking if you were hailed from Yorkshire because he actually he detects a hint of a northerner from you.
Yes, yes. So Huddersfield is it's kind of they class it as a metropolis. So Huddersfield is here, and then Leeds is here, Manchester's there,
Yep.
Sheffield's there. So we're in the centre really of the northwest.
All right. There you are, Julius.
There you go.
You are correct.
You're correct.
You got keen sense of hearing when it comes
Mhm.
to the accents. Okay. Brett, intelligence may be the measure in which one lives in harmony with the world in which they live in, remaining current. Julius said, "Yeah, told you."
Mhm.
I did it. Okay. Uh, Kurt has a question. If given the opportunity, would you train under the following for boxing? Tony Jeffries, Nassim Hamed, Anthony Joshua, Tyson Fury, Amir Khan, Lennox Lewis.
I'm gonna say I don't know the first one.
Tony Jeffries, yeah.
I don't know him, so I will research him. I'm gonna say no to some of those for reasons that they're perhaps a little bit arrogant,
Mm-hmm. Okay.
and it's been hard to find instructors that are quite humble.
Mm-hmm.
And boxers that are quite humble. I think Lennox Lewis might be the most humble out of those, though. So I would possibly maybe look at Lennox out of that group. I did have the pleasure of going and training at Gleason's gym in January for a few days, and Joanne Guzman looked after me. And then when I looked up his record and some of his fights, I was like, wow, I felt blessed. He was a technician and a head mechanic technician. I think Nazim was so good at his movement and stuff, but I don't know. Tyson's he's funny, but it's the arrogance. I don't
Okay.
like it. So
Well, I guess Brett's suggestion, you would also like negate it. Conor McGregor.
no, see, I've got friends as well. I've got friends with a gym in Portugal, and they trained Conor for one of his fights. So I've got connections that know him, but I wouldn't be that bothered
Mm-hmm.
for a meeting.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not me being dismissive. It's just that the I just don't feel there's the need for all of the vocals before a fight and
Yeah,
the
yeah.
running of other people down. I think it's too much. Like
Too
Muhammad
much.
Ali, the way he did it, he was quite clever. But what he was doing was all affirmations. I am the
Mm-hmm.
greatest. I am unbeatable. I'm pretty. No one can beat me. And it was a lot of affirmations,
Yeah,
which is it's kind of different, isn't it?
yeah, yeah. When you start like putting other people down. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Oh, okay. Fair, fair, fair enough.
Manny Pacquiao, I would love to train with.
Aha.
Manny
Yeah.
Pacquiao would be the one, and I would be interested if I go back to the Philippines at some point. I don't know if it's going to be this year. It was meant to be the year we went into lockdown. Then I was meant to get Senior Grandmaster Pepito Robas over to the
Mhm.
UK, and obviously
All
lockdown
right.
had just
Okay.
been too much. I would kind of be keen to go out to the Philippines and train at a few of the boxing gyms over there,
All right.
as well as the Filipino, but Yeah, that would be interesting.
Yeah, that would be yeah. That would be great if you can if you can do that. Uh, okay. Julius said Nazim and of course Kelbrook.
I met Kel and he was lovely. And yeah, I mean, I've managed to train. I might put it out in a book at some point. My journey so far with some of the boxing stuff. I might put it out at a later date.
Okay.
I think I'll get through my first fight, but I've managed to train with some of the people who did train with some of those guys. In fairness.
Okay.
But now I'm training with a guy that was an Irish champion, and I kind of like the way he coaches as well and his mindset. So when there was the question earlier about what do you do to look after your cognitive health and not get, well, basically it's not getting too many hits to the head, isn't it, and looking after your mind health. um this Irish champion doesn't agree with the children getting hit in the head. And I've got to say,
Mm,
that's another reason that I moved my club over, because I could have quite easily gone back and done like ring kickboxing after the Filipino martial arts. But I moved into Thai boxing for my club as well, because the children don't do head contact. And I
mm.
think that that's really important when the brain is developing.
Yes,
And that's
exactly.
the first boxing gym that I've ever stepped foot into that the children are not doing head contact sparring. I mean, I've been put in the ring at one gym. There was one manager that was going to manage me. I've had a few actually that were going to manage me, and this, that, and the other. But there was one that wanted me to spar with 12-year-old children. And bear in mind that the boxing were doing the spar in a very different way, and I
Mhm.
refused to do it. So going back to would I,
Mm.
um, it's the punching someone full on, isn't it? So I stood with my gloves on the ring ropes and I let the kids hit me.
Yeah.
But I refused to do that. I refused to hit a 12-year-old in a boxing ring. I just didn't feel good about that. And
Wow.
it might seem paradoxical coming from the girl that fought the adults and the boys, but I think, at least those boys were still boys. And okay, with the adult, I
Mm.
was 15, I wasn't 12,
Mhm.
and I know that I could fight, but it was putting someone who has done professional fights and full
Yeah.
contact fights
Yeah. Yeah.
in with a child
Yeah.
that hasn't. And I felt very wrong about that, so I wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think I always like to keep my morals with me as well. So, but yeah,
Brilliant.
I won't name drop names and
Yeah.
things like that. And, or anything.
Actually, the industry would actually love to have instructors like you. Wow.
I think it's needed moving forward, because
Mm.
there is a
Mm.
question mark about how the training's being done, and how how head contact injury is occurring in
Yeah.
the combat sports.
Yeah.
And that a lot of times, it's been an interesting one, because having done so many fights at a young age, but obviously in a different sport format. And how I was kind of, was I put to the wolves a little bit, or was I looked after, and did they kind of hold me on a rein and go, okay, let's see what she can do, and if she can't do it, we'll pull her out. Would I have felt safe in that way? I don't think I felt safe when I was a kid and I was taking on these challenges. I did feel safe, but
Mm.
training with some of these other people in some of the other combat sports, I wouldn't have that same feeling of
Yeah.
safety.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I think sometimes you're part of a food chain
Yeah.
as
That's
well.
true.
And it's been interesting to see that side of it as well. And when you're looking at other female boxers and other female fighters that have had a difficult, rough ride with it, it's been a big eye opener.
Mm. That's true.
So yeah.
That's true. I mean, we have to make sure that we actually safeguard children now. I mean,
Mm,
yeah, you have like experienced it before. I may have experienced differently, but it doesn't mean that we need to perpetuate that particular practice.
yeah.
Especially now that we
Um,
see that there are consequences to it.
Yeah, I mean,
Mm.
really, what would have happened back then? When I did those fights, what would have happened if I'd have got injured? You
Mm.
know,
Yeah, that's true.
because it is a possibility, and it's a big
Yeah.
possibility. And I think that's the thing as well that I found moving across to a different combat art. do you know when I moved to the Thai boxing and I was training with Master A, who was Master Toddy's younger brother, there
Mm-hmm.
was a respect still that, that they respected what I'd done before. But moving into the boxing, there's been very few boxers that have respected what I've done before. And I've even left coaches who have been very disrespectful to the stick fighting.
Mm-hmm.
Because how can you train with a coach who isn't respectful?
Exactly.
Because if they're not respectful in one way, they're not going to be respectful in another way.
Yeah.
And it's the small-minded syndrome thing again as
Yeah.
well, isn't it? And then it's difficult as well, isn't it? Because I think going into coaching, I was going into it from a different perspective in that, when I look back and I look back at the stick fighting, I didn't win every fight. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I won a lot, but I
Yeah.
didn't win every fight, and that was a good thing. I'm not going to look back with regrets and go, "Oh, I didn't
Yeah.
win
Yeah.
that fight," and "Oh, it's the end of my career," because I think I looked at it and I was like, "Well, can I do this today?" And every day was different, and I think I'm looking at that again with the Thai, but I got asked to get a visa and stay in Thailand. That would have been amazing. But I kind of thought, well, no, I need to go back to my gym. I need to look after my students.
Yeah. Yeah.
So although that would have been a great opportunity, um, I was happier in helping other people grow. So
Yeah.
again, I don't look back at that and go, oh, I really wished I'd have
Mm-hmm.
done that, because I've come back here and look at the blind child that's
Yeah.
now learning the
Yeah.
dance, and then I've got a lot of autistic children that I'm helping as well. And actually, the autistic children take better to the Filipino stuff.
Mm-hmm.
They actually, the more
Wow.
complicated drills,
Yeah.
the autistic children tend to do a lot better with, whereas the basic punches and stuff, they kind of get bored.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
the
Yeah. Yeah.
repetition of the
Understandable.
drilling,
Yes.
the
Yes.
repetition of the drilling really helps
Mm.
them, which is a really interesting
Yes. Yes.
thing.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah. Because it basically
yeah, I don't.
the complexity of the drill gives them more stimulus. Actually.
Yeah, but
Yeah. It's
when you look at it as well, like even the pro, say like the pro boxing and things, and the pro fighting. So you might get paid, and you might get paid a few £100 a fight. You might, do you know what I mean? When you go into the pro boxing, you might get bigger money, but it's only 1% of the fighters that will. So when you
yeah.
look into a lot of the fighters, and especially a lot of the female fighters, they're getting paid very, very little, or they're kind of buying the fights to
Yeah.
get on shows. So that whole industry just seems completely paradoxical to this, and I think
Mm,
I've always had I've kept my senses about me as well, and gone, well, I'm
yeah.
not, I refuse to buy into that, or I
Okay.
refuse to buy into
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
And but it's
All right.
interesting to see the different, when you get people who end their careers and they're kind of looking back and they're quite bitter, or they don't feel like they've achieved what they could have achieved. But then you've got to look at, there's a lot of stuff that are out of your control as well, so you can only
Yeah.
ever control the controllables.
Sure. Exactly. Exactly.
And
Exactly.
yeah, so it
All
is,
right.
it's interesting.
Okay. Um, what's this? Rebecca, you have an open invitation here. Okay. Julius, my friend, basically
Yeah,
knows Freddie Roach.
amazing.
So it's
Lucia Riker, I had this chat the other day. Lucia Riker, one of the best female boxers. Her knockout power, Freddie
Mhm.
Roach taught her, didn't he?
So he said, if you want him to introduce you to Freddie Roach, you
That
you
would
can.
be
You can.
absolutely amazing, because I'm in a bit of a dog's life, as in I've got probably maybe 3 years, 4 years to do anything that I'm going to do in the boxing. So it's not like the little baby face thing that started stick fighting, and I've got a very short opportunity. So that would be amazing, even just to meet them, and just to have a coach with so much depth and knowledge.
Mm. There you go, Julius.
He's
And
inspirational. So yeah, that'd be amazing.
yeah, Julius is a good friend of mine, and he used to also be one of the moderators of FMA discussion.
Okay,
Oh, there you go.
that would be
Um,
amazing.
yeah. Okay. So Kurt made a comment uh, here. This is a great conversation about CTE and MTB in relation to combat sport. Thank you for being an advocate for safer training methods for combat sport.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, it's difficult because you do kind of need that element of punches coming towards your face in order to learn to move. But there's other ways. So, like, I'll take you for a little tour in my gym. So
All right.
this is an upstairs room. So I've put in little things. So there's loads of different bags in here. So I've got about 20 bags hanging because I'm a little bit. I've kind of built it for myself. But like the socks to get you ducking and you moving. It's a special. It's a special ducking and weaving bag, but it's actually a sock if you look at it,
All right.
which feels like flour or something inside if you want to make your own at home and save a bit of money. But yeah, there's different equipment that you can use as well to get that movement. I mean, the sticks. Obviously the sticks for ducking and moving will be they will be superior to train the head movement and the ducking and the evasiveness.
Mm-hmm.
But there's always two ways to learn, isn't there? There's learning in the deep end, or there's learning from repetition of the positions. The positions being the footwork and movement. But then when you're in that ring, every ring experience is different.
Mm-hmm.
Not
Yeah.
one fight has ever been the same. And
Yeah.
whether
Yeah.
that's a psychological thing that we have when we go in, I don't know. But not one is ever the same. But yeah.
Okay. So it's actually nice that you got all those equipment. So yeah, as I said, there are
So this
ways
is one
basically to
room, and then
practice.
I've put a ring in the basement to which I've put the strings across it to get the
Yeah, yeah,
ducking and moving
yeah.
as well. I was trying to make the Filipino footwork, but into one of those things in the ring as well. So like a spider web that you
Yeah,
can duck in and out
yeah,
of
yeah.
to get your footwork moving faster and sharper. But
Wow.
it went to a bit of
Oh.
an epic fail, so I'm going to start it again. Um,
Okay. So I mean, I'm looking forward to seeing all this like videos of you training your students and going through all these drills. Um, but okay, just a few more comments because I know we're running up to 2 hours now. So your Brett said your journey is great. I remember you mentioned Mr. Rodel Dagook, and I've
yeah,
seen his backyard. It's amazing.
Again,
Ah,
he was one of those lovely coaches who, when I was out in the Philippines, he'd get on a train from Batangas and travel at 4 in the morning, and he'd be knocking on my hotel door to get me up to come out and train. And I say to him, "How much would you like for the training, sir?" And he'd say, "Buy me lunch."
mm,
You
yeah,
know, and
mm,
you were looked after. So
mm. It's nice. Okay. Um, sorry guys, I can't. This is we're already like near 2 hours now. So I do think we might actually have a part two then. I mean, that the conversations just went so quick, and we managed to actually tackle quite a lot of aspects on your training, on your progression, on your journey. So, I mean, at this point, we normally ask all our guests this. Okay, um, what words of inspiration or advice can you give to the FMA community?
basically, to keep an open mind. So, where sometimes we have the attitude that my style is better than your style, is better than your
Mm,
style, is better than, if we have that open mind and we can kind of go, well, okay, we're not in the days anymore of the death matches, but we can all sit in a room, we can all learn from each other, then we'll all actually learn more and it'll take it back to the very traditional arts, which is maybe getting lost because of
yes.
the systemizations of everything. So it would definitely progress the arts further, and also just it keep doing the affirmations and things as well. So you might find even if you're just someone training at home and you're just learning, you're in your early days of
Mhm.
training and you're
Mhm.
struggling on something like say a hand change and things like that, just even having up on your wall, I can do,
Yeah.
and believing that you kind of are enough as well. So sometimes it's a lack of belief that stops us from achieving something.
Okay.
So it's just keeping that open mind, and always being able to learn as
Well
well.
said. Yeah, well said. So if people would like to contact you, train with you, even online, how can they get in touch with you?
So I've got the, do you know, it's like I kind of, it's like I'm going through a stage of reinventation of myself online. So years ago, in the days of MySpace and stuff like that, I had a bigger following, and then I deleted myself on social media, and I started again. So I'm on Facebook, I'm on YouTube, but you can't send messages on YouTube anymore, can you?
Mm.
So I've got the Rebecca Kane, the dancing fighter, which the hashtag I edited the other day, so it's easier to remember. So it's Rebecca Kane 01. So Rebecca Kane number one on all social media, so Instagram, Twitter, um, YouTube, Facebook, and then I'm also on LinkedIn as well. So you can kind of find me on any of those platforms and just ping a message across.
There you go, guys. Okay. So, I mean, it has been a blessing having this conversation, this discussion with you in your interview. And I guess some people are, yeah, some people are asking for part two. So yeah, maybe we can do something a little bit more specific on that next part. But in behalf, well, in behalf of FMA discussion and all the viewers and the listeners of the podcast, okay, we would like to thank you for coming in and
Cool.
sharing
Thank
your
you.
journey, okay, with us. And remember, guys, some anybody who basically missed this podcast, it will be in YouTube anyway. Okay, so normally Dean does the uploading, so I'll send you the link, or he might send you after the link by tomorrow.
Cool.
But I mean, yeah, it has been a pleasure talking with you.
Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you very much. I enjoy the rest of the night, and no, the remaining hour for the weekend. Okay, and I'll
Cool.
speak to you soon. I'll speak to you soon.
Thank you. Take care, Tom.
Take care
Thank
too.
you.
Good luck.
Bye bye. You too.
Goodbye. Bye. Right. So there you go, guys. Thank you for watching with us. Thank you for those who commented, those who asked question. Um, and on Tuesday, I know there's going to be Dean will be interviewing. Will have an interview after this. But on Tuesday, I will be interviewing Luchi Del Gaudio. I already had him last year. Yeah, I think last year, as as my guest. But on Tuesday, we are going to talk about the Kaizen event that will be happening this June and July here in the UK. So the first one is the Kaizen Adrenaline, which is going to be on the 11th of June, and the Kaizen Festival, which is going to be on the 30th of June to July 2, and that's going to be in Somerset. So thanks again, everybody, and see you soon.